frustrating at certain levels, but certainly you can't turn the ball over 3 times. You certainly can't do that. A number of times where just the quarterbacks being on the road, in and out of the huddle.
The internet decided within hours of just one preseason game and 3 turnovers that Shedeur Sanders couldn't read a defense. But this is the thing no one is talking about. When Todd Monken watched the tape again, what he actually said was a far cry from the story that was going viral on the internet. This is not a matter of taking sides. This has to do with what the movie shows, what the head coach really said, and why everybody doesn't know how important Bills' practice week is going to be. So let's get down to it. The Browns' first week of preseason ended in an ugly box score. There were 3 turnovers total. Deshaun Watson messed up. One was picked off by Sanders, a Shedeur. Shedeur Gabriel also threw one. That's the sort of stat line that has already got anxious QB room fans heading straight for the comments section. And that's exactly what happened. Comments flooded the timeline seconds after the final whistle, with fans ripping the young guy's performance, questioning Shedeur's readiness, and acting like the tape confirmed everyone's doubts about him. That's the problem. Hardly any of them had actually seen the movie all the way through. They made up a story based on turnovers they saw on a stat sheet. That's the way it goes in this league. That becomes the story before anybody even determines whether the box score is right. The coaching staff did just that, so let's take our time and look at what happened play by play. Todd Monken sat down and went through every single picture and graded those mistakes just like film critics do. Not by the vibes, not by social media trends, but by what actually happened on the field. Watson was the first to surrender. A shotgun set before it really got started, with routes supposed to spread the defense horizontally, was blown up. Watson hadn't even seen the runner.
3 turnovers. Deshaun Watson had a turnover. He had a fumble. Shedeur Sanders and Shedeur Gabriel both had an interception. So let's grade the 3 turnovers. I'm going to give you guys 1 through 10, with 10 being the most extreme and 1 being less extreme.
All right, first we're going to evaluate Deshaun Watson's mistake. Before we do so, we're going to take a look at the formation. Looks like we have a shotgun, 2 receivers at the bottom, and we have 1 up top. And then in the slot, we have a tight end. Now, what these guys are going to run, he's going to run the defender off. He's going to run a go route. Slot guy's going to run a quick out. This guy here is going to run across the field. He's going to sit and break down. And then the guy coming on the motion is going to do the same. And so it really doesn't matter because this play was blown up as we take a look at the actual play. This just was an unfortunate situation. I would say this play, I would grade this more like a, maybe like a 6 or a 7 as far as the extreme of the turnover, because it's clear and obvious. It's just he didn't see the guy coming.
In its progress, the ball was knocked away. That's not a misunderstanding. It's just bad luck to run into a well-timed blitz. Now contrast that with the volume of the response to Shedeur's selection, which we will now break down frame by frame. Because you better be consistent in evaluating all 3 quarterbacks if you're going to be mad about one. This is where the interesting part of the story begins. So if Watson's giveaway was just a bad luck play against a good blitz, what exactly happened on Shedeur's interception? The internet was wrong on this one, so let's look into the exact path. Here's where it starts to get serious. Many on the internet criticized Shedeur's interception, saying he panicked under pressure and locked onto the wrong guy. Go frame by frame on the coach's film, and none of that is true. Shedeur is in his 3rd and 8 zone, runs through his cadence, and sees a wide open receiver in the middle of the field that is neither covered nor contested.
Great play by number 59. That's how you make the rock. All right, so as we take a look at Shedeur Sanders' interception, I'm not really concerned with the formation. More so just want to show you guys exactly about this interception, how this actually happened, and was it a good read or a bad read? Because I see online a lot of people are saying this was a bad read. So let's take a look. We have a guy in the slot right now. Luke Flory is going to come in on the motion, as you guys can see right here. And we have a receiver in the slot and another receiver at the bottom of the screen. You guys can't see, but you will see shortly. So what's going to happen right now? Shedeur Sanders is going to make the right read. I mean, the guy was clearly wide open. Going through his cadence right now, as you guys can see. And this was just a bad throw. This man right here was wide open, as you guys can see right here. wide open. This is the perfect read. I have seen people say he could have threw it here, he could have threw it here, but people don't realize it's 3rd and 8. You have to get the first down. And I can't see the actual line for where the first down was, but you guys can clearly see, even if he would have thrown it to this guy right here, you have 2 defenders right here. You know what I'm saying? So there's no way that he was going to get that first down, because I want to say the first down was somewhere up in here. I'm not sure though, but I do know this was the right read. This guy was wide open. Wide open. He just overthrew it. You know what I'm saying? So the magnitude of this interception, I would grade it as like a 5 or a 6, simply because it was the right read, just a bad throw. Now let's take a look and see how was the line? You know, how was the line of scrimmage? Because Todd Monken did speak out about this. He wanted to watch the tape to see, was this some guys in his face, or we did hear Shedeur Sanders say that it actually slipped. But as we take a look at the actual play, we see that the line was good enough. You know, this just was a bad throw.
That is, without question, the correct interpretation of this play. The argument that he should have thrown to another receiver is a denial of the fact that there was no chance of getting the first down that way, because there were 2 defenders in that alternate route. Then, the reading was correct. The throw itself sailed on him. That was the problem. It was overthrown just enough for the defender to close and make the play, rather than the receiver pulling it in for a clean completion and a new set of downs. Then Shedeur said the ball may have slipped a little bit when it left his hand, but the pocket held up pretty good when you look at the protection up front. He was not being pushed into an ill-advised decision. This one is just a matter of putting the ball on a read that is accurate otherwise. People don't realize how important that difference is. If a QB misreads and gets picked, that's a processing problem.
We're going to be in the backfield by himself. Well, this guy right here is just going to run a wheel route. And then the primary receiver, I'm going to mark him pink. He's going to just run right up in here, and he's going to break it down wide open. Dillon Gabriel just got to make this play. As we take a look at the play, we can see the tight end is going to carry the linebacker over. And then Dillon Gabriel just got to hit this guy right here. He's wide open. I'm going to circle him so you guys can see. He's wide open. You just got to make this play. I'll show you guys the pass. Just way overthrown. It's like 5 yards, 7 yards overthrown. All right, we're going to look at it from the backside, actually from the end zone. We can see Dillon Gabriel just so small, man. I don't know if that's the problem, but we have observed this during training camp where we have seen Dillon Gabriel turn the ball over a lot, him and Deshaun Watson. I mean, the pocket was perfect, just bad throwing mechanic right there.
The mechanics issue of a quarterback who gets it right but just misses the throw on one specific play. Those are not the same conversations. False narratives are created about young players before they even get a chance to establish themselves. That's the part that should really change how this is framed. The same experience was had by other people in the building that same evening, and Shedeur was not the only one. The story extends beyond Shedeur, however, as Dillon Gabriel had the same incident a short distance away, and hardly anyone is talking about it. To be fair, Dillon Gabriel's interception, which was barely in the news compared to Shedeur's, is the best example of this whole pattern. The main receiver is wide open in the middle of the field. The TE drags the LB out the way. The backfield is empty. The window wasn't very big. He was not taken in by a hidden disguise. He was standing there and nobody was within 5 yards of the receiver.
No, other than there was, as I said, a number of times where just the quarterbacks being on the road, in and out of the huddle, using silent cadence, that was apparent that we still have work to do. Now the next 2 weeks we'll be at home, normal cadence. We'll get to practice with the Bills.
Gabriel, who just had to put the ball on him to end the play, which was probably a big gain. The throw instead was way off the mark and went several yards past where the receiver was. Gabriel's pocket was empty too. There was no miscommunication in the process, no pressure to make a split decision, just a football that came out of his hand with too much on it. Does that ring a bell? Because the story's pretty much the same thing that happened with Shedeur 2 possessions ago. The ball was high and just missed, the receiver was wide open, the read was correct. The only difference is that one name became popular later. By now, you can't ignore the pattern. Fans and the media reacted as if one of two young quarterbacks who made nearly identical mistakes was a five-alarm crisis. That's no longer a football observation. It's a storytelling problem. And if no one counters such narratives with the actual tape, they persist far longer than they should. The coaching staff obviously understands this, and that's why Todd Monken's comments after the game are so important. He wasn't there to sit around pointing fingers at one man against another. He was watching everything that came before these plays, the whole operation, the whole evening. When you hear what he actually identified as the true problem, every single one of these turnovers takes on a whole new meaning. Hardly anyone has discussed this section. Forget the takes. Turn a blind eye to the outrage. That's what Todd Monken said when he sat down and broke down the tape himself. Todd Monken did not mention Shedeur's name in his post-movie review comments to the media. He didn't single out Gabriel. He brought up something that no one else was talking about. It changes the whole discussion with these turnovers. It really was an operational problem, Monkin said. Silent cadence because crowd noise, being on the road, getting in and out of the huddle. There was obviously more to be done there, he said. Not on arm talent, not on reading defenses, but on the practicality of just running the offense successfully in a hostile environment. He even tied it to Shedeur's other blunder of the night, the botched snap, saying it was the result of a missed cadence tied to that same road communication problem, not a brain fart or a panic, but a timing issue between center and quarterback that occurs when teams are breaking in new starters on the road, especially early in camp when silent counts aren't second nature yet. The part that should get people to pay attention, not freak out. We're going to have 2 full weeks at home with regular cadence, Monkin said as the Browns get ready for their joint practice with the Buffalo Bills. That's more than just speculation. That's the very fix for this problem he just discovered. Home crowd, normal cadence, and extra practice reps on the huddle communication that confused everyone in the first week. He also said they had the right players on the field for the most part. The communication from the sidelines was good, and the substitutes were good. Therefore, this did not mean a broken offense. The head coach has a plan in place to deal with things before they get out of hand. It was a young team in the special environment of a road environment. That is very different than the panic that ensued online in the hours after the game, and that is exactly why the Bills' practice week is going to be so crucial. Because if Monkin is correct about the real reason for these mistakes, the answer is already on the schedule. So, wonder if the person who gave the hot take about Shedeur Sanders not being ready actually watched the movie, or just took a stat line at face value. Let's look at what actually happened here, instead of what was released in the first hours after the game. Watson's mistake was that the blitz was too much for the defense. Shedeur's pick came from a good read and a knockdown on a play where the pocket held up nicely. And Gabriel's choice was much the same. The pocket was clean, the read was right, and the ball just sailed. 3 different plays that were executional flaws, not bad choices. Also, the head coach's own explanation hints at structural problems, like road communication, silent cadence, and getting used to running the huddle in a hostile environment. The Browns will get 2 weeks at home to work on that problem before they even get to joint practice with the Bills, and that's something that can be fixed. That does not mean everything is perfect. Monkin said there's still work to be done, but there's a big difference between a young quarterback who can't understand a defense and a team still working through operational issues while traveling. One of those is a real issue. Every team has to assimilate new pieces, and the other is just part of that. The tape confirms that. The coach's own words bear that out, except for the panic that broke out before anyone saw the movie. That's the real question going into Bills practice. Was it a bad night for Shedeur Sanders in particular, or was it a bad night for an offense still trying to learn to communicate on the road with 2 rookie quarterbacks? Based on what Todd Monken actually said and what the tape actually shows, this looks more like growing pains than a warning sign. We'll soon find out if reps at home before Bills week is really the answer. Leave a reply. Was it Shedeur's fault, or was it the operation around him? Let me know below. So please subscribe and give it a like.